Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Q&A. Today's a special Q&A. It's actually my birthday. But aside from the point, we're going to be getting into a pretty interesting topic today. So I'm going to be continuing to run Q&A calls like this in the future, is we're going to start diving into about a 15-minute conversation on a certain topic or valuable piece of information that's going to then be expanded upon, and then we'll be able to actually answer any questions that are going to be around that topic. Or if there's anything else afterwards, of course, we can get into that. But really, we're just wanting to set the stage for a nice, awesome, creative conversation that's going to be value packed and help people walk away with some really amazing information. So, that being said, today's topic is going to be around how are you going to serve a new, higher level of an ideal client as your business grows. I'll say for myself and I'll say for others that when I first started business as a newer entrepreneur, I was working mainly with other new entrepreneurs, or in some cases, even people who are still in the corporate space. Um, I've talked with a lot of other coaches, consultants, and again, with my own experience, that working with newer entrepreneurs can be a bit challenging at times, right? Some of the biggest beliefs, some of the biggest issues really come about when it comes to limiting beliefs and mindset and discipline, more of the foundational pieces that actually make an entrepreneur successful, not so much the actual technical or the trait aspects that can be adopted pretty quickly. So what I've noticed is that like so many people, like I said myself as well, like when I first started building my business around lead generation, I was working with a new type of entrepreneur. And I was also relatively a new type of entrepreneur. And so it made sense that I was able to lead the people I was working with as I was just, a few steps ahead. But now, with others as well, they built their entire audience base of a certain type of entrepreneur, a certain type of person. Maybe they have their ICP and avatar very clearly defined. However, they don't resonate with them anymore. It's too much time, too much manual effort, even if they have courses, even if they have programs to actually get in there and work with them to make sure they see a change. They want to work with a higher level of client now that's maybe they're one or two steps above, maybe a handful, 2 to 3 months ahead of them in terms of, having the right mindset, actually going out there and making implementations and coming back with results, right? So you don't necessarily want to be working with your peers, but you want to be working with somebody who's higher level, who can take action, who can actually implement on a lot of the thought work and mindset shifts that you're able to help them achieve. So with that being said, how do we actually do that? How do you actually shift into serving that higher level of client, right? And it really just comes down to understanding who they are first. For me personally, it's doing another round of developing an avatar, developing that persona of the person you want to talk to. They have a different set of challenges now than the initial, types of individuals that you're wanting to serve to begin with. Right? So that's really one of the most important steps. It's like even if you're talking to the same business owner, you're still talking to coaches and consultants, but rather than coaches and consultants who are 6 months into their journey, maybe making some inconsistent revenue, you're starting to talk to more established coaches, consultants. Maybe in some cases they're even making more money than you, but maybe they have issues with their mindsets or their limiting beliefs, or they don't know how to do a certain skill like advertising or something that you know very well, right? So the biggest first initial piece is shifting yourself, shifting your identity first, who you're showing up as in your content, your writing. That is the most important piece because you can't go out and try to serve these higher level of clients while still being in a lower level yourself. You might want it, you might think you deserve it, but until you actually show up and hold that space and hold that container of the person who they want to work with, there's going to be friction there. Now, another piece with this is talking to their pains again. Very similar to when you're developing your first initial avatar, your first initial ideal client. You know, they have a certain set of pains, certain thoughts and conversations that they're having in their head that are going to be different than the initial person that you were serving. They're going to have different fears. Maybe their fears aren't paying the bills anymore and putting food on the table. Maybe their fears are, how am I going to scale this company? Or I can't handle the amount of stress that I'm going through, right? Or even in my case, like, they built the audience. How do I pivot? I'm so far deep into serving this type of person. How do I start talking to that higher level of client if my entire audience is built off those people? And the next piece, I really think it's important to almost have a bit of a succession plan. So I'll give a couple examples. Alex Hormozi, he has acquisition.com, and he's working with companies who are doing about $1 to $3 million in profit. He'll come in, he'll invest, and he'll work with them. But he doesn't just talk to business owners who are doing that kind of money. He talks to all entrepreneurs, right, at any level. But what he actually does is he gives out free resources that he creates once that are valuable to almost be roadmaps and ladders to help the lower audience he no longer can serve one-on-one actually get to the point to where he does want to work with them. And he does that by offering his books, $100 million offers, $100 million leads. He has training sections on the website. He gives that stuff away for free because he knows that if he provides value to help his audience level up to the next level, when they get to that point, they're going to be almost indebted to him and grateful to him to where they're going to want to work with him, and then also he's going to help take them beyond. So that's what I recommend you can also start to do. You maybe been doing your one-on-one service for so long, manual, time-consuming work. You're working one-on-one with these clients. Maybe you're not charging high ticket. They can't afford your services. What you can actually start to do is maybe create a course around the core concepts and offer as paid, offer as part of your paid community. Make sure it's accessible for the range that they're at, but they can come consume that. They can take action on that. You're not getting really involved in the mindset and the limiting beliefs and getting all entangled up in their personal drama. And they're able to kind of move through a lot of that on their own. And then they get to the point where you can work with them. Now, another aspect is you just attract those clients into your audience who never known you before, right? Like you can just attract new people you could serve at a high level. Like they don't have to be part of your audience, part of your prior audience, right? Moving things forward there. But you just start talking and showing up in your content in a way that's attracting these newer, higher level of people that you're wanting to engage with. And I'll say one of the final pieces here is, we've talked about with a new audience, with a new target client, also, a way to create a succession plan. But with all of these new processes, you're also going to need a new offering, something that is going to be centered and focused around their different set of problems. Now, you can actually keep a lot of the core offering the same, but say, for example, the last step of working with somebody is you're helping them close sales, right? Well, what are the next problems that come after that? Well, now it's actually fulfilling on client work, offering a really amazing high level, high value service. They've gotten into further stages into their journey. And in some cases, you've helped clients do so. What are their next problems? What are their next challenges? That list is going to go on and on and on and on. Even if we're talking, you're helping billionaires, right? They've reached the pinnacle of money. Maybe they still want to even further expand, but maybe they just want help having peace of mind and disconnecting from their business. Maybe they want help getting a relationship, right? Like there's so many different things that continue to come as problems after they reach certain solutions that don't also have to be in line. So for me personally, leaning more into almost mindset coaching, energetics, and helping people embody that sort of high ticket container to actually serve their clients. They've been doing the manual work. They've been struggling with the limiting beliefs of their clients. They don't want to work with that audience anymore. They want a new higher level of person to serve. And so there are just different things that come with that. With that being said, that was a little nice breakdown here. I have my wife Farrell here on the call, and we're just going to kind of chat back and forth, see if she has any questions, and take it from there.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, something came to mind for me as I just started, I guess, keep working with my mentor. Just started again after a little bit of a break, and how I notice people work with me is that if you're not in that evolution of upgrading the client, then you're just going to attract people in for like this one-time thing, and then they'll never work with you again. Unless you're upgrading, and then they get to upgrade with you, right?
Really good point. Yeah.
And so I think it's important, and I guess I've been doing this but didn't realize it, is like being able to maybe do a group program at a time or do a course where you actually document and record your knowledge. I mean, obviously, if this is applicable to your business at a
Mhm.
certain stage, so that you don't have to keep spending time with that, I hate to say like lower level person, but let's just say beginner, right?
Right.
When they come into your world, or like I've been in my business for two years now, so I'm not going to be speaking to the same person that I initially started speaking to,
Right.
but I have old courses or documented, containers where they don't actually get access to me, but they get access to what I recorded in the past, which is perfect for them at the time and also perfect to funnel them and transform them into the next level, which I'm probably teaching at that time,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, like that's the energetic way to just like keep it's like an energetic funnel in your business. And yeah, I just put that together, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I definitely think that, as business owners, our businesses are a vessel for us to continue to reach the next level of ourselves, right? I don't want to say personal development or like self improvement, but it's like becoming the next better version of yourself, right? Like you're going into a cocoon, you're a caterpillar going into a cocoon, you're coming out a butterfly, and then you're, I guess, a butterfly going into a cocoon and coming out as a better butterfly or something along those lines, right? Like we're always going to be growing, improving, shedding our past selves, our past limiting beliefs that might have resonated with the audience we were talking to at a certain time. But now we're moving on to like what's new, what's better. But you still want to leave a clear path of succession for those who are just getting started to be accelerated up to where you currently are. And that's a really good point as well when it comes to like one-on-one engagements or like if you're doing consulting work for just one type of offering. Well, say, like I said, you help them, they have product market fit and they now close sales. Okay. Now what? If you aren't actually offering anything to them to help them get to the next step, then they don't need you anymore. And it's not like you need to have recurring revenue from that person, but you'd like it, right? I mean, if they like you, they got good results, like they want to keep working with you. But if you don't offer them something to take them to the next level, the next level, the next level, and the next level, then they'd have to go elsewhere or stay stagnant if they don't work with anybody else. So that's why I think it's really important, we just continue to iterate and improve and create different products and almost encapsulate. It's almost like every time you create a new product, you're kind of like encapsulating that past version of yourself, right? You're putting it into amber and it's like a fossil, in preservation to where people can come look at it and learn from it. But you're no longer that person. You're no longer dealing with those challenges. You've solved them, you conquer them, and so others can come to the museum and pay $50 to come look at the results and learn from it, right? Just an example there, but that's what Farrell's saying, like having courses and having things that almost naturally ramp up in terms of what are we moving towards. So that's a really good way to put it, and I think it's especially important for like solopreneurs and coaches and consultants and service providers to be able to do that because we're a one-man show, like unless we, or one woman show in your case, unless we have employees or people who can come deliver the service for us, like we can't serve everyone. So productizing what we're doing, scaling things while we're continuing to level up, while our mindsets are continuing to improve, while we want to attract a high level of client, you have to make sure that you're taking the action to help you actually do so. So yeah, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think that, well, what I've noticed a little bit is that okay, not everything, but many, many things that are one way in the corporate world are just flipped in the entrepreneurial world.
Hmm.
So while a lot of people, we've all been kind of raised and indoctrinated into this way of thinking that longer term experience equals value in something. I don't think that's necessarily true whenever it comes to entrepreneurship. What's more true in being able to actually take someone through a transformation is you doing it more recently. And especially if you're in the business world, if you have like 10 years of experience doing this one thing, 10 years ago, I mean, social media, like it did exist, but you know what I'm saying. It like didn't exist in the way it did today. So if you're like a social media consultant, what you've been doing for 10 years, unless you've been up leveling that, is not going to be applicable at all.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
time and experience is like, I mean, yeah, you obviously don't want to be doing something for 1 week and then like teaching someone, but I would rather work with the person who has been embodying this long enough to where it obviously is something that they're embodied in, not just
Mm-hmm.
something that they heard and are like regurgitating.
Right.
But I'm probably not going to be choosing the person who's like doing something the old way that they've just been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, um especially on the business side of things. I don't know. I'm more like, if anyone's watching this and doesn't know what I do YouTube and feminine energy coaching. So I'm really just doing my own thing over here. I really don't follow any rules, but what I've noticed people doing and more of like who Garrett talks to and like I don't know, everything's so structured and interesting to observe and I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's cool if you enjoy that, but it doesn't have to be that way and you can make it your own fun little thing.
Yeah. And that's also a really good point. It's like, it's almost like as an entrepreneur using an entrepreneurial brain. If you look at somebody who's been in one role that's not like the highest level role, like a CEO or like a C-level executive or like a VP, they've been like maybe an associate or like a general manager for like 10 years. I'd say even in the corporate world, you start to look at that person, it's like something wrong here. Like, is there a reason they aren't progressing higher? Like it almost becomes a sign of stagnation. And I know for me personally, going back to like during COVID, um, I had graduated college, right? And I was no longer getting information and learning spoon fed to me. So it was like kind of up to myself to actually seek out knowledge and education to continually improve myself. But I noticed that when I wasn't doing that, very depressed. And so you can imagine people who stagnated and doing the same thing for years and years and years, no iterations, no improvements, no new, faster ways to do things, no innovation. You can imagine that can be pretty depressing to some degree, right? And that can seem a little visceral, but like it's being stuck and doing the same thing. Sure, maybe if it's continuing to work for you, you're continuing to grow it. You don't have to change things, maybe. But I'm always for looking for new ways to help clients get a result that's either takes less effort, takes less time, or they can do so where they have a higher percentage likelihood that they're actually going to achieve the result. So, like when you become focused on improving those aspects, then your business is going to naturally start to evolve and progress as things move on. But yeah, if you're just stagnant and doing the same thing, like it may look nice on a resume if you're applying for a new job, but like people who know, like people who really see value are gonna raise an eyebrow at that. So I definitely agree with your point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, well, me and Garrett have kind of both experienced this lately. Um, when it comes to upgrading, I don't know how to put this, like working with someone who's, maybe going from beginner to intermediate that you're working with.
Mhm.
What stops anyone from doing that if they really want to, right? I mean, if you enjoy working with beginners and like that's all you want to work with and you just love helping people get started, awesome. That's different. Obviously you can find new ways to do that, new products to bring to them, all that sort of stuff. That's great. But if you're like deep down craving to really like take the person who already knows the strategy, like already knows that any strategy will work for them, already knows that, you know, they know how to make money to some degree, right? Maybe 5 to 10K a month. And you really want to help them deepen within, like for me, for example, I want to help people who already know how to manifest or are familiar with that sort of stuff and take them into just locking it in and skyrocketing it and taking it to a whole next level because those conversations to me are like so much, they energize me instead of me
Yes.
feeling like I'm being drained and having to teach the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh, like this is good. And I just really enjoy those deepening of conversations and working with people longer term also, not just taking in these new people regurgitating the same thing.
Yeah.
And then also at the beginner level, you do deal with people who a lot of the mindset is like, why has nothing worked for me yet? Like
Hmm.
your solution, like desperate grasping onto this person. And then
Tell
when
me
that,
what to say. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. When that doesn't work, then they're just like nothing's gonna work for them in that state. So I personally don't enjoy working with people in that state. But I think a lot of fear holds anyone back from, yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there, but
Oh.
really the fear of like, oh shit, I built my whole audience around this very, very basic information and I didn't really know how to show up as an authority yet in my content when it comes to, speaking at a higher level. And so now it's almost like you're selling for the first time again because it's like right when you start becoming an entrepreneur and you're like scared to put yourself out there, scared to speak to the people because you're like, I don't know if they're gonna buy and all that sort of stuff. Well, when you get that next level of client and then you have to go all over again and like, oh my God, like, am I gonna speak to them correctly? Am I gonna resonate with them? Are they too high level for me? Am I really, you know, are they gonna see me as someone who can help them? Like you go through all that again, right?
Oh yeah, you almost have to like, well, yeah, definitely when you're leveling up, there's going to be some limiting beliefs that come up, which is actually a good thing. It's growth, it's change. But even if you continue to serve that past audience, you're almost having to put yourself in that lower state, to be able to actually speak to them. Like I hear from a lot of creators and myself personally, to where like I'll almost get in a bit of like an empathetic state. It's like, what are they feeling right now? What are they experiencing? And like, kind of suck to go through that again if you've already conquered it, right? So it's like, not only are you serving the same type of person, but you're also stagnating your own growth when you know you can be talking about more. You can be having a bigger impact, but in order to keep making money, you have to keep talking to the same audience, or at least you think you do. So
Oh.
it is a big shift. It can be quite uncomfortable again to understand, but it's also it's challenging, and it's actually becomes more enjoyable. There's a graph to where it's like challenge is over here, and then like what's the word, like competency is down here. And when the challenge perfectly meets the competency, you're like in the zone, you're focused, you're in the flow. So like if you start to get to the point where you're really really competent, and the challenge is low for the people you're actually serving, it's very easy to repeat it over and over again. You're going to get burnt out, and like almost you don't really want to do it anymore, right? But if you keep serving a higher level person, a higher level person, a higher level person, as your competency increases, then you're in the flow. Like you're loving it, you're having a great time, and you're getting to share and almost get a bit of a really quick feedback into like, okay, this person shares my values. Maybe they're actually only maybe a month behind me, but like they used to be me, 2 years ago, but like now they've leveled up. I don't have to like convince them that self improvement is important. I don't have to convince them that they need to, value their value and charge high prices. They already know all that stuff. They want the next thing. You can help them do that. But unless you're willing to actually go out there and talk to those type of people, market to them, know them very well, develop a new avatar, a more developed target client, then you're going to be stuck and you're going to be stagnant. So yeah, that's it's a crazy part of it. Absolutely. You have to make sure you're continuously pushing yourself as your skill and your competency increases. And you can do so by serving that higher level of client. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I was gonna say something and then I lost my train of thought because what you said was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I feel like there's something we said about this earlier that was just like it clicked,
Yeah.
but I can't remember what that
It's like your
was.
ideal client is no longer ideal, something like that. It's just like,
Yeah, like, well, I think that I don't know who all here is making content. I think
hmm,
it should be, but
yeah.
Um, but well, okay, like everyone's doing something, obviously. You're having a
Mhm.
conversation, you're having sales calls, you're making content, whatever way you attract your clients. And I just yeah, you're going to start to disconnect from, well, okay, actually, you kind of start speaking to no one because you disconnect from the audience that you have been talking to because you yourself have just reached a different stage, right? Like, I, I can't, you can't just stay talking to the person, how to get your first $1,000 month or something like that, like how to
Yeah.
land your first client forever, because it's just, you don't even relate anymore. And so you're not speaking to them, but at the same time, you haven't allowed yourself to go to that next, like really talk to the person that you know you want to, basically.
Right.
You're not speaking to them either. It's like this weird mess of no one's buying because no one's resonating.
Mhm.
That's like almost worse. I actually just realized that's something I've experienced quite a few times.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a lull period, but like I think to fix that is like the sooner you can identify that, oh, I leveled up, my mindset has improved, I've shed these limiting beliefs that I thought I was serving before. Like you've shed your skin. Like look at an insect, for example. Like you shed the skin. That stuff behind is something that you would serve and solve for before, and that would kind of please maybe a lot of those challenges that you're facing during that time. But then you get to a point to where what you really are passionate about, what you really want to talk about, the impact you really want to have, may not be hitting. I think probably one of the biggest reasons is like you come out of the new shell, but like maybe you haven't done the research to put your avatar in place. You haven't done the research to create the new offering. You haven't done the research to figure out the new way to resonate and acquire these clients, right? Like through cold outreach or creating content. Like it's a new system to some degree. Even if it's the same fundamentals, there's different variables. What do
Hmm.
you think about that, Fro?
So what does doing the research mean?
I'd say it's more just like, so whenever I'm going in creating a niche for myself or my clients, it's like, what are the thoughts they're thinking in their head? You know, what are the conversations that they're having with themselves about why things aren't working, or what are some of the fears and doubts that they have about not being able to get to the next stage? It's collecting that information because when you level up and when you move to the next stage, there are going to be new conversations and new fears and new beliefs that you might have not have put down on paper yet and written down. So when I say research is more like collected and like embodied is probably the best way to put it, but like really like written down and having laid out a full understanding of the new ideal client you're trying to serve.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is research is pretty much going within
Yeah.
and looking at exactly what you needed when you were in that position.
Yeah.
Or, for example, helping, I mean, yeah, I think talking to people that you want to serve is really good if you haven't been there yet, I guess you could say. I don't really know how someone can consult on or coach on somewhere they haven't been. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it's kind of like going within because I think there's actually a misconception where I would hear people say this all the time, like 2 years ago when I was first starting my business, and I would be on like, what are those websites where you try to look up the questions that people are asking around a certain topic or something
Oh,
like that.
like ask the public.
Yeah, ask the public. And I didn't find like in the long run, that did not help me
Yeah.
whatsoever. Like maybe if you're trying to make the most basic of the basic content on something, it can be a good place to start if you're literally lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not going within
Mhm.
and creating it from that point, okay, actually, I'm just gonna get into it. I don't know.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you're
Go
not
ahead.
doing it from an embodied, I don't know if embodied is even the right word. If you're not doing it from a state of authority of you know exactly who you're talking to,
Yes.
you aren't gonna be able to sell to anyone with any strategy ever.
Yep.
Honestly. I don't know, maybe you will, but it's not going to last. It's not
Right.
going to be something that you're able to continuously keep doing and seeing success on. And so I think that's the big disconnect is people think they need the strategy or whatever. I mean, I don't consider myself having any strategy, to be honest. but I do have an insanely embodied state of being of like, this is what gets to happen for me.
Hmm.
And so when you are doing anything, any strategy, and Garrett has this too, but when you're doing any strategy or any like creating any content, all of it's coming from that state of being. It's not coming from, I took this course and learned how to write content and now I'm replicating someone else's voice and
Hmm.
you know, that's gonna work for me.
Yeah.
I don't I don't think that works very well personally.
Yeah.
Um
You have
yeah.
to own it. And I like what you're saying about the research piece. So yeah, definitely going within, understanding what conversations was I having with myself? Like what did my mind, my ego, keep trying to present to me as a problem, that I didn't know how to solve. And then you solved it. How'd you get past that? Document that. And when I say research as well, is like you could just talk to people who are like peers to you and who you've known have gone through some of those similar transformations and like understand kind of what they were telling themselves, or even taking what you have and kind of like validating that with them, like comparing it to them. But also that could be a little tricky is because like only kind of the limiting beliefs and the things that you shed. So it could be might be a little bit difficult to actually like get that out of somebody else. But like the more it comes from like your own mental chit chat in your head, getting past having intrusive thoughts or getting past being anxious about something or getting past about having to survive and put food on the table. Only in your head what those conversations, what those fears, how they presented themselves, and then how you actually handled them. And this is more kind of like more like mindset coaching now. This is the same for business, right? Like only that one little tweak you made in your messaging and your cold outreach. You used two different words and you provided value instead of maybe asking a question, right? It's like only you really know that strategy. And I really think a lot of what people are talking to, and like especially like big agency owners, creators, of course, I think they definitely can get into like higher level things, but all too often they're just talking to a kind of a simple cookie cutter strategy. So like the main value you have is actually going through a negative experience, going through the challenges and the struggles to then make the tweaks that you made to actually see success. And it helps people understand where you were and where you are now. So to not only build trust, but also show that, you know, you know how to get them to where they want to continue to go. So hopefully I think it makes sense for the most part. Um, but it's just about really embodying that and knowing it fully. And then in doing so, almost journaling and documenting a lot of those processes that were going on in your own head to then be able to talk to it when you're creating content, to talk to it when you're sending a DM to somebody you could help. It's just a different level, a different stage. And I'm sure it can seem kind of scary, kind of expanding and branching out, but that's where the fun of business is and the challenge. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think that's why whenever you talk to people who are I don't know why, it's like the 10K hump, right? If you figure out how to make a 10K month, there's just an energy that resonates with that. And I guess
Mhm.
you can say like a mindset that resonates with that. And it's because those people did not give up. And it's because those people are the ones who actually did this, whether they consciously knew it or not. But every single entrepreneur that I know who has gotten to the 10, 20, especially 100K plus months, they have mentors who they work with on energetics, mindset, shadow work, something like that. I have
Yes.
genuinely never heard of an entrepreneur who is at the 10K and above a month mark who doesn't talk about this. That's why you hear
Yeah.
people talk about this. And that's where a big disconnect is, where it's like the beginner, I don't want to say the beginner, but like the people who are new to business and don't understand that it's an inner game and don't
Yes.
understand that it's something that, you know, is a complete reflection of who you are being. I mean,
Yes.
complete reflection of who you are being. It's not just related, it is that. It's literally a projection of it. And
Yeah.
so the people who don't understand that, like they haven't gotten to the 10K month yet.
Yes.
They're the ones
That's
who are
a,
sitting there like, where are my clients? They're the ones sitting there who procrastinate. Obviously we still go through that. Like I go through periods where I just want to retreat and kind of like I'm in a level up period where I don't feel like I'm in the space to make content or something like that. That's different.
Mhm.
But it's like literally procrastinating, acting like they don't know what to do,
Yep.
acting like they have no idea where their clients are going to come from.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like
That's a really, really good point.
this is the separation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a rite of
Because you'll say stuff like that, like you'll say you are a reflection of your business, your business is a reflection of you. You'll say that to people just getting started in entrepreneurship. You're like, what are you talking about? Like that's so weird. Like, and they're like, oh, that's woo
it's
woo, or like,
woo, right?
yeah, like oh, like that's spiritual. Like this is so weird. Like you just have to get results. Like what are you talking about? It's so foreign to them. I think that's probably why it's challenging for a lot of uh maybe more experienced entrepreneurs to actually go down and work with newer level entrepreneurs because there's an energetic disconnect. It's not the
Hmm.
skills. The skills are all out there. The strategies and the skills, everything you need on paper to help you get to $100 million months, $200 million months, whatever that may be. Like it's all there. But the people who've actually gotten there and gotten past that 10K hump, 20K hump, they
Hmm.
know that it's actually about how you're showing up.
Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
that
and
is
it's
super big.
also, yeah, it's also the container that we talk about is like I've already made that. I know
Mhm.
I can make that. If I can do it once, I can do it again, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like I have my process of the way I like to experience it. I like to experience my business by and this is also okay, like I actually love talking about this. So if we're thinking about why people pay high ticket for something, this is actually a really big piece. I'm not I'm not going to do cold outreach. That's not me. I don't do ads. I don't do that sort of stuff. I literally enjoy creating content and writing emails. And sometimes I will make my highest income months by not doing any of those.
Mm.
So don't recommend, but that
Yeah.
works for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how I enjoy experiencing it. That's my preference.
Mhm.
Um, but since I've done that before, and a higher level entrepreneur who's also done that also knows that like I could, I don't know, go try like the stuff that Garrett teaches strategy wise. I could go on LinkedIn and probably also make a 10K month because that's just my container of like I don't make less than that.
Mhm.
I don't like I just know I can do it
Yeah.
and I've done the inner work around it. And I know that whatever strategy I implement, I can do that with. I don't find that enjoyable whatsoever. So I'm not going to do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That is it's almost like for me, especially when I was getting started on entrepreneurship, I'll go way back. I was like, I have to see it. I have to feel it. I have to know that logically it's possible I can do it. Like I can't just believe. But once I do it once, I guess you could say that that logic and that stuff is satiated. But because that's my new kind of minimum standard, and I fully believe that I can do it again if I want to every single month, then I do. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you can really, I don't want to say convince yourself, but if you like when it comes to my identity work and mindset, this is stuff I talked about when it comes to the profitable productivity guide here in the course, is like setting that foundation. If you believe and embody the state of the person that you are, who already has what you want, you will get it. And this is not woo woo. This is not, and don't be in the desire as well. We've talked about this before. Like don't be in the state to where you're the person wanting it. Desire is pain. You don't have it,
It's
right?
separation.
It's separation. So you need to be the person that has it already. And that like I think the biggest shift with that, for those of you who might think something like this is woo woo, which is not, let's look at it logically. If I'm showing up, I've got my red light glasses here. I've actually been the more inner work and self work that I do, the more calm I'm noticing I am, the more confident I'm noticing I am. I'm able to show up and just talk clearly, smoothly, say all the words that I need to say because I know I'm in the state of making 10, 20K months. The person I'm talking to can absolutely benefit from my services. I don't have to get out there and convince them. There's no need to convince. And so, with that being said, it's like if you're the person who thinks it's woo woo, think about how having those beliefs actually makes you show up. It's going to make it a lot easier, actually easier, less friction to create valuable, impactful content that you resonate with. It's going to be easy to write and flow because you're in that state of the person who has the things that you want. And so you take action in accordance with what that person does. And so it's not rocket science. It's also not woo woo. Like you can say there's logic, there's emotion, there's energetics, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's affecting your reality. It's affecting your thoughts. It's affecting your actions. It's affecting how you show up. It's not think and grow rich. It's like show up and grow rich is probably the best way to put it. So that is such a huge shift is like when you fully get that your business is a reflection of yourself, like, and you do the things you need to do to be the best version of yourself that you can be, business is going to come together very naturally, very, very naturally. What do you have
Yeah.
to add to that?
And okay, so when you go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, does the mirror smile at you first, or do you have to smile in order to see it?
Big, yeah.
And I would say, I mean, this is gonna sound harsh, but it's fucking true, is that it yeah, the people, I don't know, the people who think it's woo-woo, look at your bank account. Is what you're doing working?
Yeah.
If you're not doing the inner, like, if you're, I don't want to even say the inner work here. Like, you don't have to go in and like do all this stuff and write down all these affirmations and journal all the time if you don't enjoy that experience. But what does have to happen, consciously or subconsciously, is that you have to be in a different state of being in order for your reality to reflect that to you.
Mm-hmm.
That is non-negotiable. And up to a certain level, some people can do that without having to even be aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
but to get to the next, the 30K month and beyond, and you haven't had it yet, and it's not happening for you,
Mm-hmm.
something has to change. And it's not the strategy. It's not the strategy. Oh my God.
It's not your external world. It's not, yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
not the strategy. It is
You don't need a
internal.
savior. You don't need the answer to magically fly over to you. It's literally your decision
Mhm.
and who you are showing up as.
Yeah. If you
That's it.
think you're the person who makes 30K months and you don't have 30K months, then you're not that person. You
Yeah.
can't create a new situation with the same foundation, the same person, the same environment. Cannot create a new outcome. So what do you think has to change? You're gonna have to change yourself and your beliefs to actually show up and do something differently. And I like what you said because I think this is an important point to understand those who are maybe thinking about it in a more of a logical way, more of like numbers and like this is not fact. Well, I look at like Alex Hormozy. He almost has a bit of a different flip take on it, but I actually believe he's still validating a lot of what we're saying. He's like, you want to make sure you put in the work and do the things to give yourself undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. But in order to put in the work, in order to show up and build something, first of all, you have to have goals to actually move towards and build that. So like you're coming from a higher place already, setting those goals. But then he's also showing up and the work is working on him more than he's working on it, right? And he's actually leveling himself up while he's doing that work. So in theory and in reality, he's actually doing like inner work, self-improvement by creating new valuable products, by creating new valuable information, new content that he wouldn't have been able to create if he decided to procrastinate and not do that work. So even if you look at it like he's Like look at Alex, right? He's about as logical as it gets. I don't think he talks really anything about mindset, anything about identity, but look at
But
what he does.
imagine his state of being, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not a state of being of someone in victimhood. It's not a state of being of someone who's in this paralysis of not making anything work, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just goes about it a different way. And it's like, yeah, some people aren't, I mean, that's just not how they prefer to view this sort of conversation or to view it. That's not
Yeah.
their preference. That's not what they like to experience, and that's fine.
Right.
I like to talk about it this way, but
I do too.
it's all the same thing.
The end result's the same. There's just different math to get there. But like what's actually happening to you in your mind, in your body, whether you're doing the work or you're doing the inner work, right? Reflecting on yourself is you're becoming a better person. I would say better, but becoming a different person that you would say is a more whole and complete version of yourself and what
Yeah.
you're wanting to work towards.
And hopefully it's not someone you don't want to be. Like, you don't ever have to become someone you don't want to. It's like that's something I got caught up in for a while is okay, let me create this identity that I think equals this amount of money, or I think equals this amount of depth in our relationship, or something like that.
Mhm.
And so then I would kind of show up and put on a false act and think, well, if I put on the false act enough, then it will become embodied.
Mhm.
Mm, I didn't work for me.
Mhm.
Didn't work for me personally. I would say that, you know, who you can be in whatever state of being you actually want to be in and still see those results, right? I mean, I don't know. I guess some people could do it from victimhood, but I don't think anyone really enjoys sitting in the state of nothing works for me and I'm horrible at this and I have all these things, forces acting against me. I would guarantee that 99% of people are not enjoying actually sitting in that state, right? So it's just about like being real with yourself. This is actually a really big key is you think so whenever you start doing this, right? You think that you are fully committed to this version of you that's showing up that you want to experience. You think you're committed to not seeing less than that 10K month. You think you are, right? But it's not until you are. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, it's not until you actually are and you're just like, this is it, or I'm going to die trying, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Because I deserve to experience, I don't even want to say deserve here. Like, I'm going to experience my reality before I die as the way I want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to. That's the point that like you have to get to. And I think
Right.
that's a lot of the inner work is like being in the state and then getting out of it and then like, oh shit, I don't really like how things are when they don't work out for me. So let me go back to the state. Let me go back to the state. Let me go back to it. That's the hard work. It sounds simple. It's not easy.
Mhm.
But that's the rite of passage of entrepreneurship. That's the rite of passage of deepening in your relationship. That's the rite of passage of changing your external reality in whatever way you want.
It's when you move to that next stage and you actually stay there where the change
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Holding
so
it.
many times you'll move to it. You move to, I'm someone who makes 10K months, and then your bank account doesn't reflect it. And you go right back into being a victim. You go right back into being scared. And there you go. I mean, with anything, like if we look at the gym, for example, if we look at, you're lifting weights, say, oh, I hit 5 bench presses and I don't have a six pack shredded. Like, of course, there's going to be a little bit of a time lag where like the reality you want is going to catch up with the way you're showing up.
Mhm.
But as long as you hold that container and hold that space of a person who makes 10K months and kind of circling back to the beginning of our conversation, the person who works with those high level clients, who works with the main clients they want to attract that are going to pay them handsomely for their work because they actually get results, you have to stay consistent and show up as that person who does that. And when you run back, people know your energy and your content. I would say to get about as woo woo as we can. Like people can sense, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you've reverted back to a state and that can create stress in them if they're a client. That can create, or even if you level up, people can start to sense that, oh, like he's actually like he's doing more, right? So it's like there's so much that's not talked about that happens under the surface under the surface when it comes to the actual like know, like, and trust. So much of that is actually done subconsciously. And so when you're showing up confidently with conviction, owning your shit, knowing what you're talking about, that's when people are going to say, okay, like I trust this person. He's showing up consistently for 2 months, 3 months. Like he's only getting better, if anything. Like I want to get on this. I want to get on this ride. I want to get on the train and level up with him. But yeah, you just can't try to step into it and then step back and then try to step into it and then step back. Like you're going to be stuck there forever. So like you have to step into a new stage to where maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable at first and you're experiencing that stress, but like just be calm, let it pass through you, don't feed into things that are testing you. And then that's when you're truly rewarded with the type of life and the type of business that you want. So this is
Well,
really good. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, two things I'll add
Yeah.
is holding, like a lot of people probably don't know what holding that
Yeah.
container means. It means that you are in the ideal state for a dominant amount of time, or
Yeah.
let's say a dominant percentage of time. So 51%, right? That's more than half.
Right.
When that is held for a long period of time, let's not even say long, it could be a week, it could be, a few months.
Yeah.
The longer you hold it, the more it solidifies into what is dominantly showing up for you.
What is you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is you pushed out.
Yeah.
And so also what I want to say is that as we talk about, charging higher prices, getting those higher level of clients, like having that, just what it really is you desire to experience a higher quality of energetic exchange with someone.
Hmm.
It's not about the money. It's not about seeing this higher number in your bank account. Like, yeah, that's, of course, that's fun. That's like a fun little like dopamine hit in the 3D, right? But that's not at the root of it what it's really about, because that's not fulfilling at the end of the day. That can be totally empty, or that can be fulfilling in this higher level of energy of exchange with someone.
Yeah.
And so like my mentor's mentor charges $5 to $10 million a year to work with her for manifestation. For manifestation.
Yeah.
Now, in my world, it's like, okay, yeah, cool. I mean, that's still a lot. It's like I was like, whoa, I was blown away hearing that. But people in my world value that, right? I'm assuming people here are not necessarily thinking that you can charge $5 to $10 million a year to work with someone on high level manifestation.
Right.
So I know a lot of people go through that self-doubt period of like, no one's going to pay me for this. And that right there should just prove that that's completely untrue. I mean, to some of you, that might sound like she's charging $10 million a year for underwater basket weaving. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like this random thing that maybe you don't value, but someone values it. Someone values it. And all that you need to charge those higher prices and really call in those higher level of clients is to, yes, I know Garrett's talked about this, value your own value,
Hmm.
but also show up in a state of being valuable and communicating that through your energy, through your content, through the sales calls, through the conversations,
Hmm.
because that's the difference between attracting people who want to not pay you at all, who ghost you, who want you to work for them for free, who like
Right.
are shitty clients, stuff like that, and working with like here, here's some insight. Typically, people who value the higher end experiences and which are pretty much correlated with like paying more,
Mhm.
are a lot easier to work with and a lot
Absolutely.
more enjoyable to work with
Absolutely.
in any field.
Yeah.
So that's just my experience.
No, yeah. Really, really good. And it's I think the biggest thing, not only when you're approaching serving a new high level of client, but also potentially finding a mentor and somebody to learn to take you to that high level, is you need an open mind. You need an open mind, and you need to be able to shut down your ego and your stubbornness, thinking you know right. I'm sure there are probably a lot of you who heard manifestation or some of the quote unquote woo woo stuff we've been talking about. Like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, this has nothing to do with business. Like, it's crazy. Like, you probably think that, but you need to realize that there are people who know things that you don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And if those people are making significantly more money than you, and they're spouting the importance of something you think that might be woo woo, maybe it's time to take a little bit of a reality pill and understand that you need to look at, like, okay, who's getting results and who's not, you know? And saying this not to be harsh, but also trying to be harsh at the same time is like, you need to understand that it's just leveling up and getting these $10,000 months, $20,000 months that all of us are seeking, you know, and really, really wanting. It's going to take change. Change can be very uncomfortable for most. But when you welcome it with an open mind and embrace it and are coachable and show up in that way, then you're going to start moving forward a lot faster towards your goals. So, that being said, really good conversation with you, baby. Farrell, appreciate your
I should
time.
post this on YouTube.
And yeah, it's definitely want a lot of y'all to listen to this and you know, share any comments down below with your thoughts on this matter. And it's really important. I wouldn't be sitting here, and neither would Farrell, talking about it if we didn't think this is something that was that this is something that was incredibly important to actually, you know, leveling up in your business and creating the life that you actually want. So that being said, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Have a good one. Take care.